I found a great spot. I'm planning to film here. It feels like I'm the last one left in the world. What should I do? The whole town has everything. Hospitals, schools, banks, police stations, even an Oppo store. But it's all abandoned. Brothers, I'm riding my motorcycle all alone on a mountaintop. This place is amazing.
Recently, a man discovered an abandoned town in Guizhou with no one around, just him. It felt like the end of the world. After watching the video, viewers were shocked and wondered, where did everyone go? Could this be related to the CCP's plan to merge villages and towns?
今天我在半山腰上发现一座令人心痛的古村落。
Today I found an old village on a hillside. Last year, when I came here, there was still 8 elderly people living in the village. Now the village is deserted, overgrown with weeds, and everything has changed.
现在我们所在的地方叫四明山村。
The place we're at is called Siming Mountain Village. It's now known as the village with no people, because it's completely empty. No one has lived here for years. The doors of the houses are gone, and this big village is deserted. All I can hear is the sound of birds. It really feels like the apocalypse is here. This place is just over 10 kilometers from the city. What would you feel if you woke up one day and everyone, your city, the people around you, had disappeared? What would you do?
来看一看，这就是我们当下的。
See, this is the state of our rural areas now. This land, which used to be so fertile, is now abandoned. No one's farming it anymore. These are the old houses from our village. The young people, the elderly, and the children have all moved to the city. But now, for those who love agriculture, come to our rural areas. We have free houses and free land to farm, as long as you're willing to work. I believe you won't have any problems with food and shelter.
有房无人住，有路无人走。
There are houses, but no one lives in them. Roads, but no one walks on them. This is the largest abandoned village in the Chaoshan region. It used to be home to over 600 households, but one night, everyone suddenly moved away. What was once a lively, prosperous village is now left with empty houses and deserted streets. Many buildings have collapsed, and the area is overrun with weeds and vines. The once vibrant village can never return. Do you know why the villagers left? In recent years, rural depopulation has become more severe in China. More and more young people are leaving their villages to seek jobs and opportunities in the cities, causing rural areas to empty out. This trend is alarming. According to the latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics, China's population decreased by 1.39 million at the end of 2024, marking the third consecutive year of negative population growth. The rural population has been hit particularly hard, with 12.2 million fewer people living in rural areas in 2024 compared to the previous year. Compared to 2010, the rural population has decreased by 78.3%, and the average population in each village is now under 200 people. Furthermore, the amount of farmland left abandoned has reached 12 million acres, equivalent to the total farmland area of Fujian province. Experts from the Chinese Communist Party predict that the population will continue to concentrate in urban areas and city clusters. Cities like Beijing and Shanghai already have much higher population densities than other areas. But even in these bustling cities, you can see the contrast of empty streets compared to the crowded scenes of the past.
现在中国真的还有14亿人口吗？
Does China really still have 1.4 billion people? When it was 1.2 billion, it always felt so lively, whether it was the streets, the malls, or even the villages. But now, with 1.4 billion people, the streets are empty, and the villages are left with just a few elderly people. The number of students in schools has dropped by several times. Where did all these people go?
Many people are starting to question if China still has 1.4 billion people as officially claimed. The economy is struggling, businesses are quiet, and streets are less crowded, and even rural areas are getting emptier. This raises the question, where did China's population go? It's strange, the holiday is over, but where have all the people in Beijing gone? I don't know if you've noticed, but the streets in Beijing are empty. The malls are empty. The streets are empty. Everywhere is empty. Can anyone analyze this? Where did all the people go? Did they go back to the countryside to retire, or have they moved to other places for opportunities? It feels like there are fewer and fewer people in Beijing, but I don't know where they went. Can anyone help me figure this out? The World Trade Center in Beijing is all shut up, and there's no one around. What happened? It used to be so vibrant.
现在的人都去哪了？
Where have all the people gone? The streets in Shanghai are so empty. Look, the streets are deserted. Where did everyone go? Honestly, when I came to Shanghai 10 years ago, we had to wait to cross the street. Now it's empty. Just look at Pudong Airport 10 years ago. The number of people was so much higher than now. Where did all the people go? I really don't understand. Even in our town, there are so few people. I didn't expect Shanghai to be so empty. Look at the stores. They're all struggling. There's always space. No more waiting in line. In fact, population loss is as severe everywhere in our country now.
我现正在大上海陆家嘴。
I'm at the World Financial Center in Lujiazui, and the entire road is empty at midway. Where are the office workers? Where are the beautiful women? This area is home to the headquarters of major banks and security firms, so there should be a lot of office workers. Where did they all go? I walked around and couldn't even find a restaurant or food court. It's so hard to find a place to eat. Is this really Shanghai? The city that generates over 50 trillion yuan in GDP every year? It's really strange. Where are all the people? There are even fewer people here than in my hometown. This large supermarket is empty. Not a single person. Where did everyone go?
Recently, people from across China have been posting videos online saying that cities they live in are no longer the same. Once bustling streets are now deserted. Formerly crowded commercial areas are disappearing, and the busiest places like malls, subways, train stations, and buses are nearly empty.
14亿人口的中国，1000多
In
万人口的
Dongguan,
中
with
国
a population of over 10 million, the streets are empty. The stores have no customers. Where did all the people go?
有没有手电手分的那种
It's like
感
I'm
觉？
going crazy, waiting for people to come in. The street is so quiet. I've been here for hours. People come in maybe just once every half hour or every hour. They just come in to buy some basic necessities. Nothing else sells. That's the situation. Let me show you. The whole street is empty, with no one around. Someone asked me how to solve this problem, and honestly, I don't know what to do either. We have lots of products, but no customers. How do we solve this issue of low foot traffic? The street is really empty, and it feels eerie. Is it the same where you are? It's so quiet that it's scary. Look, no one. This is my shop, and the location is okay. Even with promotions, there's no one. It's already March, and the street is still so deserted. It's terrifying. What's it like where you are?
你们知道2025年最奇怪
Do you know what's the weirdest thing? There are no people. I went to the market this morning, and the old lady selling vegetables looked at me with bright eyes, asking me to come and buy from them. That never used to happen. Then I learned that there are fewer customers now. The owner of the barbecue shop next door asked me how business was, and I asked him the same. He said it's strange. Now he can't even seat 2 tables a day. There's hardly anyone around. The streets are full of delivery drivers and people running errands, but very few people. It's really strange this year. Where is everyone? Where did China's 1.4 billion people go? And why is it suddenly so empty? In today's China, many are asking why cities and rural areas are so deserted. People have always been used to bustling crowds, but now crowds are seemingly harder to find. The visible decline in China's population seems at odds with official figures, and many are wondering if it's related to the pandemic. Some even suspect that a large number of deaths during the pandemic were hidden by the authorities. This theory is often based on indirect evidence, such as salt consumption, reduced demand for food, or funeral data. A citizen using the AI model Grok 3 developed by Elon Musk analyzed China's population decrease from 2020 to 2023, estimating that China lost 150 million to 200 million people during this period based on consumption and other factors. In July 2022, reports on platforms like X and other social media revealed that a hacker had put up a database for sale, claiming it contained the personal information of over 1 billion Chinese people, including names, genders, ages, ID numbers, addresses, and phone numbers, along with a lot of pandemic-related data. The hacker offered 750,000 sample records, priced at 10 Bitcoin, around $200,000. The story was later reported by media outlets like the New York Times, increasing its visibility and fueling suspicions about China's population data. Furthermore, a Japanese research institution suggested that based on China's salt consumption, the country's population might be between 800 million and 900 million people. On YouTube, a Chinese vlogger, Jiang Taigong, shared another leak, claiming that according to data from China's Ministry of Public Security, there are only about 776 million people in China with official ID cards. The vlogger argued that if this data is from the Ministry of Public Security, it should be reliable because the ID cards are issued by them. Once the data enters their system, it's easy to track how many ID cards have been issued. The Chinese national ID card is required for all citizens over the age of 16, so theoretically, the population of people over 16 in China is about 776 million. Next, we can estimate the population under 16. Children and teenagers make up about 17 to 18% of the total population, which, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, amounts to about 240 million people in 2023. Most of these individuals haven't received an ID card yet. From this, we can estimate that China's actual population is around 1 billion people. On the credibility of this information, Chinese-American commentator Xing Tianxing believes that, although these are indirect data analyses, they are enough to demonstrate that the Chinese Communist Party is falsifying information. Xing said, "It's just information that can be inferred from official data. It's compiled and then predicted using a model. Even though there's a large gap between these numbers and the actual population decrease, the AI disclosure proves that the CCP is covering up and falsifying the data." Many people believe the CCP is going to great lengths to conceal both the pandemic and the disappearing population. The general assumption is that the CCP fears the massive death toll from the COVID-19 pandemic could lead to public uprisings and social unrest, so they're trying to suppress the truth to maintain their power. Former TV journalist Zhang Jieming stated that the current crisis in China may be even more severe than anyone can imagine. Zhang said, after the pandemic, other countries saw their economies rebound, but in China, after the lockdowns ended in late 2022, there was no rebound. Instead, the economy continued to decline. This is the inevitable result of a massive population decrease. According to demographic economics theory, the size, structure, and distribution of a population have profound effects on economic development. A population and labor force reduction, especially a significant one, can lead to labor shortages, decreased consumer demand, and weakened economic vitality. Ming believes that China's population decrease is immense, clearly much more than just tens of millions. He recalls that in the 1980s, when the CCP officially announced that China's population had exceeded 1 billion, it didn't feel nearly as empty or quiet as it does today. Even during holidays or peak travel periods, there was never such an eerie emptiness. Zhang said, "This didn't just happen overnight. The CCP can't hide this massive loss of life. The number of deaths between 2020 and 2023 must have been shocking." The CCP's 7th census results were delayed for several months, an unprecedented move, reflecting the leadership's fear of revealing the real population figures. Zhang also noted that during the pandemic, many areas experienced long queues for cremation, a phenomenon that has resurfaced since the end of 2023. He mentioned that cremation fees have significantly risen. Several provinces have turned a blind eye to burial practices due to the severity of the pandemic, as the crematoriums couldn't keep up with demand. He said, "I received some news that all statistics related to cremations at funeral homes and crematoriums in China are strictly prohibited from being leaked. If an employee shares this data, they're immediately fired. If it's a leader, they're removed from their position. There's a strict order now that the number of cremations must be kept confidential." A friend of mine is in Liaoning, about 200 kilometers from Shenyang. It's a small city, and he says it's like a ghost town. The streets are completely empty, and even when he sees someone, it's usually just elderly people. In a few years, this place will be a ghost town. Recently, the Chinese Communist Party has launched a campaign to address the population crisis. In an effort to encourage people to have more children, the government is offering tax breaks, affordable housing, and cash subsidies. Some cities are even covering the cost of IVF treatments and lifting punitive restrictions on single mothers. On March 13, Hohhot, the capital of Inner Mongolia, announced a new policy offering childbearing subsidies. Parents of a first child will receive 10,000 yuan, 50,000 yuan for a second child, and 100,000 yuan for a third child. These will be paid in yearly installments of 10,000 yuan per year. Previously, 23 provinces and cities had already piloted similar fertility subsidy systems, although the amounts varied. For example, in Yunnan province, Subsidies for a second and third child were and 5,000 yuan respectively. Ho-hot subsidy is the highest so far, which may reflect the central government's desire to experiment with models to provide a nationwide reference. The Ho-hot fertility subsidy policy quickly gained attention on social media, sparking heated discussions. My second child was born in 2014, and we were fined 30,000 yuan. Where could I get that back? I was fined 20,000 yuan when I was born. Now I feel bad for my parents. Can I get that fine refunded? I'm thinking of having another child. That's not enough to cover milk powder, education, housing, cars, or medical expenses. Can we even afford to raise a child? My daughter's 30 and doesn't want to get married. What good is the subsidy? Looking back to 2014, when China's famous director Zhang Yimou was fined 7.5 million yuan for having 3 children, the government's current strong push for larger families in 2025 is shocking. So, why is the CCP so eager to encourage childbirth now? This highlights the population crisis now threatening China's economic, social, and political stability. It's likely that the excessive number of deaths during the recent years of pandemic and disasters have contributed to this issue. Many deaths, particularly among those of childbearing age, have likely exacerbated the decline in birth rates. The stark contrast between the severe fines of 2014 and the generous rewards in 2025 reflects the government's anxiety over the population issue. However, it also reveals the tendency of policies to swing from one extreme to another. Despite these economic incentives, or maybe because of them, the CCP is unlikely to solve the structural issues behind the low birth rates.